What up, everybody? This is your boy Dedrian Colon from House of Wrestling. This is my review for the April 1st pay-per-view of the Multiverse of Matches from Impact Wrestling. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Follow House of Wrestling on all social media platforms. Follow me, Dedrian180, on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. Man, this was a busy night. This was the last wrestling show out of the major ones of the night. The beginning of the night, you had Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor, you had SmackDown, you had AEW Rampage, and then you had this. They kind of overlapped each other, all of them, well, except for SmackDown and Rampage. But yeah, this pay-per-view Multiverse of Matches. Oh man, where do I start? I know those of you who are subscribers, you look forward to my reviews of Impact Wrestling. I do have to be honest, this pay-per-view, they could have done this on Sunday right before WrestleMania. If you guys remember last year, Impact Wrestling had, was it Hardcore Justice, and they held it right before WrestleMania Night 1. I don't know why this year they decided to do it on a Friday, knowing that Supercard of Honor was going to happen. You had SmackDown, you had Rampage, then you had all the other events surrounding Dallas with WrestleMania in town. I believe there isn't anything major out of WWE, AEW. Well, WWE has the WrestleMania, forgive me. But outside of WWE, there's no AEW event, Ring of Honor, NW. Like, there's nothing there. Like, they could have held that. What they could have done what they did last year on Sunday this year. Because I remember last year it was at, I believe, 2 or 3 p.m. I can't remember which time it was. It was only like a 2-hour pay-per-view, so it finished right when WWE's kickoff show was starting, or it was already underway. But yeah, this pay-per-view, they could have waited till Sunday, and quite honestly, nothing really major happened on this pay-per-view. Of course, those that, like myself, were watching it and everything. I mean, you go from Ring of Honor, and then you're watching Ring of Honor and SmackDown, and then as you're watching Ring of Honor and SmackDown, then you're watching Ring of Honor and the early parts of Rampage, and then from there, you're watching just, the Multiverse of Matches. And yeah, they could have waited for this. The matches were pretty decent. It's just the way it looked, and throughout the night they had like audio issues where as they were transitioning to the back, the audio was real low, and then you were getting the audio from the arena and not directly going into the TV. So yeah, that's my issue with this pay-per-view. Like, this should have taken place on Sunday. I know the wrestlers, some of them, there's another GCW event after this Multiverse of Matches that was finished. There's another event with GCW, and that's the thing. The GCW events have been killing it this whole week, leading up to, of course, WrestleMania and stuff like that. But yeah, this pay-per-view, like, it should have been on Sunday. Let me know what you guys think, but yeah, this should have been on Sunday. It started off with Jordan Grace, Chris Bay, Vincent, Rick Swan, Blake Christian, Trey Miguel, and Mike Bailey in the Ultimate X match. I was surprised to see Jordan Grace in this match, but yeah, this was a pretty decent match. Again, one thing that took away from this pay-per-view, as opposed to the other Impact Wrestling pay-per-views that we usually see, since they've gotten out of the where they shoot their Impact tapings, I believe it's in Nashville, and they've kind of traveled and everything. Most of the time, it's been really bright. This arena, man, this was the way this pay-per-view came off. It looked like an NWA pay-per-view where it was like very dingy lit, like dimly lit, dingy, like gloomy, not as bright. It was just very, how do I put it? It looked very like amateurish. Like, it did not come across like an Impact Wrestling, like what you're usually, what you see from them as far as just the quality and overall, presentation. Like, this was not, the lighting was not good. And I think that's what kind of took me out of this pay-per-view. Once this match started, and then it was just like, ooh, okay. Mind you, this is starting after Rampage is finished, and you go from that, and it's like, oh man. And so far throughout the night, if you're watching all these events and stuff like that, Ring of Honor, I'll have a review for that. That was dope. Rampage, that was dope. SmackDown, and it was more of a time filler. It was decent, but it wasn't what it was. So it was like, all right, it is what it is. They're going to do their thing for, WrestleMania and stuff. But once you got to this, and that's the thing, like the quality of viewing Ring of Honor, WWE SmackDown, and Rampage, like it was fluid. Like you're watching high quality, and then you go from this to this, and it's just like, man, this is, man, okay. Like, man, this is damn okay. But Trey Miguel, he wins the match, and he's still the X Division champ. Then we go to, and this is where, once the next match happened, it's like, wait a minute, wouldn't this be like one of your higher card matches? So the second match was Matt Cardona and Chelsea Green versus Nick Aldis and Mickie James. Now it makes sense why, because I know that Matt Cardona had another. Again, this is why this pay-per-view should have happened on a Sunday. Granted, if some of the talent do have events on Sunday, now it kind of makes sense. But then again, it's like, if you know this months in advance, like, I know they booked this months in advance, like, you should have booked this, like, either book it on a Sunday or don't do this at all. Because this, like, and mind you, as I'm going through this whole results and stuff like that, I want you guys to keep in mind, not a lot major happened in this event. Like, nothing major. There wasn't no post-match thing. Like, very few things happened. Like, this was, it felt like an Impact Wrestling version of Superstars or something. I know it's kind of low, but that's what nothing major happened. Mickie James and Nick Aldis, they win with a double submission. This was a pretty decent match. It had the same flow as far as when you have mixed tag matches with, man and woman and stuff like that. Same flow and everything. It was pretty decent. Nothing like really high spot for me came across, but it's like, wow, this is interesting, because, and this is where it kind of like, it goes back to what I was saying as far as the, like, this should have been on Sunday, because you have like the Mickie James Chelsea Green feud is major in Impact, because it just happened where she cost her the title. Like, that's what ended your Impact Wrestling show, and it's second on the card. And Nick Aldis and Matt Cardona are feuding for the NWA Championship, and they're second on the card. Like, again, either you should have booked it on a Sunday or don't book it at all, because it doesn't, like, a lot of things just didn't make sense. Then you had backstage with Deonna Purrazzo talking about who's going to be her surprise, who's going to answer her open challenge. Then we get Mike Bailey and Alex Shelley. This was a pretty dope match. Any match that Mike Bailey's in is phenomenal. Him and Alex Shelley had so much good chemistry. This was fun. This actually brought up, like, a lot of the energy. I know the crowd there was, yeah. And again, the crowd at the Impact Multiverse of Matches, mind you, they're in Dallas, and Dallas is the central time zone. So this is starting at, like, by the time this match between Mike Bailey and Alex Shelley happens, like, it's already almost like 10 o'clock at night. So it's like, mind you, most of these fans probably gone to other events, so they're like kind of like, ooh, okay. From there you get a fatal 4-way match between the Influence, Tasha Steelz, and Savannah Evans versus the Decay, Havoc, and Rosemary. And you have the tag team of Giselle Shaw and Lady Frost, which is pretty interesting. Again, this was another decent match, but again, honestly, I know those of you who are watching this, it's gonna sound like I'm repeating myself, but again, if you did not watch this and you watch this, that lighting takes you out of the, everything. It was like, oh man, this is good. You're just sitting there just like, man, it's so like, it isn't as bright as we're accustomed to with Impact Wrestling. And also, like, you get a shot of the wall and it's like a dark, like concrete gray. Like, it's just like, ooh, okay. The Influence win. They keep their Knockouts Tag Team Championships. From there, you get a promo from Eddie Edwards. Then you get a match between Eddie Edwards and Tomohiro Ishii. These dudes laid it in, man. The chops that Tomohiro Ishii was receiving from Eddie Edwards and vice versa. This was a very physical match. I was surprised to see Eddie Edwards in a physical style match with this opponent, Tomohiro Ishii. He's had like physical style matches, but Tomohiro Ishii's he's very stiff. But man, this was a decent match. I would recommend you guys watch this match just because it was stiff and it was like really good. Tomohiro Ishii, he wins that match. Then we go from the tag team match between Moose and PCO versus Jonah and Josh Alexander. Fairly decent match. Moose, eventually, during the match, he left PCO on his own, and Josh Alexander and Jonah just beat the hell out of PCO, and they win. Moose walks away. Again, by this point, most of these matches have significant storyline implications from Impact Wrestling's regular show, and nothing significant happened. We're just like, oh my god, that's crazy. Oh my god, I didn't see that person coming. Oh my god, that's crazy. From there, we get Deonna Purrazzo. She comes out. Actually, I'm going to retract that. Something did major happen, and I just looked at my notes, but bear with me. It's the only good thing from the show. So Deonna Purrazzo, she's there. She's asking for the open challenge, and Fabi Apache, I'm jacking that name up, forgive me. She's from Lucha Libre AAA. She answers it, and she's fighting for the Reina de Reims championship, which is the women's championship in Lucha Libre AAA. Pretty decent match. Honestly, I would have had this match a little bit if they had to do it. They should have had this match after the Alex Shelley Mike Bailey match, and they should have had the Influence with Tasha Steelz. They should have had that here, or they should have had it in between the Jay White, Sabin, and the main event. That's how they should have done it. But this was a pretty decent match. Deonna Purrazzo wins, and then the music hits, and guess who's back in Impact Wrestling? Taya Valkyrie. She's back. She confronts Deonna Purrazzo, and she's like, I'll see you at Rebellion. So it's not official yet, so we could get the match between Deonna Purrazzo and Taya Valkyrie. It's gonna be interesting how this plays out, but that's gonna be a fun match. It's good to see Taya Valkyrie back in Impact Wrestling. It's crazy to think that this time last year she was starting to debut in NXT, and then not even a year later, she's back in Impact Wrestling, which is crazy how that works out. Then you get the match between Jay White and Chris Sabin. This was a pretty decent match. What's interesting about tonight, pretty much you could say, well, not all Bullet Club lost. But Jay White and Chris Bay, uh, they lost. This was a pretty decent match. Chris Sabin wins, and then after he wins, Steve Macklin beats him up. So we have that thing, and I don't know. I saw. I was like, why is Steve Macklin like? I know he's like against the Team Impact and everything. Like I don't know. It was just like, all right, it is what it is. Then the main event, you had the Briscoes versus the Good Brothers. This is interesting because the Good Brothers, mind you, this is in Texas. The Good Brothers came straight from Supercard of Honor to Multiverses of Matches. So they're competing. This is like the second match of the night that they've competed in. Kudos to them. That's crazy. This was a pretty solid match. You can tell that like the Briscoes during the match, like they took it easy, like in the first part. Because I mean, let's face it, this is their second match of the night, and their first match of the night, which was against FTR. That was a freaking amazing match. That's another watch that other review. But man, this was, you could tell they took their time and then they hit their spots, and then Good Brothers won by a distraction from Jay White and Chris Bay, and then they just ran off, and then that was the show. So yeah, that's my review for Multiverse of Matches. It was a decent pay-per-view. None of the matches were like terribly bad or anything. What took away from, being engaged and just like, ooh, man, this is interesting. One, the lighting. Then two, the way the facility that they held it in, like it was just so gloomy, because there wasn't enough lighting, and just the audio issues and just the way they had the camera shot, like it was just like really, like, I don't, honestly, it felt like I was watching a tamer version of GCW. Now, mind you, it's not a knock or anything, but it's like it wasn't something that you usually see from Impact Wrestling, and it didn't connect for me. And it was like, it's like, okay, I see this. Honestly, if it wasn't for Taya Valkyrie debuting or coming back to Impact Wrestling, like this show, like you could have, honestly, because of all the wrestling, like you can wait till Monday to watch this show. And I know whoever is from Impact Wrestling like this, it's like, it's not a diss, it's just how this show came across watching it. Like, there's so much badass wrestling happening this weekend that started last night, and that, this afternoon and this evening, and, it just translating this, just like, it's like, all right, it's wrestling happening, let me just watch it. But it wasn't something that really drew your attention and just like, oh man, I gotta see this. Before the pay-per-view, like, it was like, oh man, I gotta see this. But as the night went on, it was just like, it just really didn't connect or anything. So that is my review for the April 1st Multiverses of Matches from Impact Wrestling, their pay-per-view. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Follow to House Wrestling on all social media platforms. Follow me, Dedrian180, on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. Yeah, let me know what you think. My main thing, and if you guys have watched my reviews, my main thing when I'm watching multiple shows is my attention. Like, what's going to draw my attention is just, okay. And mind you, this pay-per-view came on at 9, so I mean, it was competing against Rampage, and honestly, like, the first part was pretty cool, but then after, like, Rampage, just because what was cool about Rampage was that it tied into what happened at Ring of Honor and vice versa, but that's another review, which you can watch that one. But yeah, they should have waited for this or they should have done this pay-per-view right before WrestleMania on Sunday, night 2. Like, they should have had it at 2 or 3 p.m., have for 2 hours right before the kickoff, because having it tonight, granted, if the wrestlers had other schedule obligations, then I could see why they would schedule here. But next year, whatever WrestleMania, like, they need to do it right before WrestleMania to give people, like, oh man, I want to watch wrestling, but, you know, I don't want to wait. Oh, you know, let me watch this to, you know, pass the time, and then boom. Like last year, it was perfect because it finished right before the WWE's kickoff show, and then it just, boom, went there. But it is what it is. So, thank you guys. Like I always say, quit fighting over wrestling. The reason why, there's so much damn wrestling and options this weekend. There's no need to fight or anything. Just enjoy what you like. It's like a freaking buffet of professional wrestling this weekend. So, and next week, the next day that there is no wrestling is next Sunday? It's crazy. But thank you guys. Until next time, I'm out.